The sky above the planet Therion was a storm of fire and smoke. Explosions ripped through the clouds like jagged lightning, casting orange and red light over the shattered landscape below. Captain Elias, a veteran human warrior, moved cautiously among the ruins. His armor was scorched in places, and his rifle shook slightly in his hands from the adrenaline still coursing through his veins. The war had lasted for months. Humanity's forces had met the alien empire in a clash over the mining colonies near Therion's outer moons. Both sides had suffered immense losses. Now, in the aftermath of one of the fiercest battles yet, Elias found himself alone. His squad had been scattered, and the last transmission from command had been a series of static-filled warnings. Fall back. Evacuate. Don't. Elias ducked behind a crumbled wall, peering through the smoke. The alien forces, tall and sinewy with translucent skin that shimmered under the firelight, had been driven back, at least temporarily. Still, the battlefield was treacherous. Debris littered the ground. Smoldering metal twisted into strange shapes like broken sculptures. He could hear the distant cries of injured soldiers, human and alien alike. It was then that he saw her. A figure lay among the rubble of what had once been a palace tower. Elias's first instinct was caution. Could it be a trap? The aliens were known for their ambushes. But something about the figure made him hesitate. She was small compared to the warriors he had faced. Her skin glowed faintly, a soft blue in the dim light, and she wore a cloak torn and singed in the battle. A pulse of faint light from her chest told him she was still alive, but barely. Elias sprinted across the open ground, risking detection. Every step was measured, his rifle ready, but he avoided shooting. She didn't move, didn't struggle, and the smoke made it hard to see any signs of other threats. When he reached her, he dropped to his knees beside the alien. "Hey, can you hear me?" he asked softly. The alien princess's eyes flickered open. They were large and shimmering, a mix of silver and violet filled with confusion and fear. Her gaze fixed on him, and she tried to speak, but only a faint, broken whisper escaped. Elias couldn't understand her language fully, but he didn't need to. The urgency in her eyes was clear. She was dying. Elias checked her for wounds. Deep gashes ran along her arms and legs, and burns covered much of her body. His heart sank. She had lost a lot of blood. Medical scanners he carried in his pack confirmed his fears. Her pulse was dangerously weak, and her oxygen levels were dropping fast. He had to make a choice. Command would never forgive a human soldier for helping an enemy. But his instincts, his humanity, screamed at him to act. He had to save her. "Hang on," he murmured, more to himself than to her. He opened his medical kit and scanned her body more carefully. Then he froze. Her blood. "It's incompatible," he muttered. Human and alien blood were never the same. Attempts at transfusion often failed, and could even kill the recipient faster. But something in her scans surprised him. There was a faint compatibility, almost imperceptible, that could allow a temporary transfusion. It was risky, a very human kind of risk. Elias didn't hesitate. He took a deep breath, rolled up his sleeve, and prepared the transfusion kit. As he drove the needle into his vein, he felt the familiar sting of fear and resolve. He had given his blood to save lives before, but never to a being of a completely different species, never to a princess of an alien empire. The machine whirred softly. Blood flowed slowly from him into her. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then her chest glowed brighter, and her pulse strengthened slightly. Elias's relief was immediate, but short-lived. He could see exhaustion etched into her delicate features. She was fragile, almost like a child who had been thrown into the chaos of war. The ground shook beneath them as distant explosions rocked the battlefield. Elias shielded her body instinctively, wrapping her in what remained of her cloak. Her eyes fluttered open fully now, and she looked at him, confusion still clouding her expression. Her lips moved, forming words he could not understand. But her voice carried gratitude, fear, and something else, a fragile trust. Elias felt it, even without understanding her language. "They're coming back," a voice said sharply behind him. Elias turned to see a group of alien soldiers approaching, their weapons raised. But they didn't fire immediately. They paused, their eyes on the princess. Elias tensed. This was it. The moment that could decide his life. And hers. "Run," he yelled, pulling her up with surprising strength. The princess stumbled, weak from blood loss, but she held on to him instinctively. As they moved through the smoke and debris, Elias realized something remarkable. Despite her injuries, she was not just a victim. She had a quiet determination, a will to survive. He respected that. The aliens behind them hesitated. Some reached out, some shouted. Elias didn't know their intentions. Were they here to kill him? Or to retrieve the princess? He had no time to think. He darted through the rubble, leaping over fallen beams and burning metal. Somehow, against all odds, he found a narrow tunnel beneath the ruins, a service passage likely used by palace workers long ago. He helped the princess inside, shielding her as they moved through the dark, damp passage. The sounds of battle faded slightly, replaced by the echo of dripping water and their own breathing. Finally, they stopped in a small chamber, hidden beneath the palace floor. The princess sank to the ground, exhausted. Elias crouched beside her, his chest heaving. He glanced down at her face. She was still alive. "You made it," he whispered. She reached out, her hand trembling, and touched his arm. A strange warmth spread through him. He didn't understand it, but he felt a connection, a thread linking their fates. Perhaps it was just the relief, or perhaps something more profound. He knew one thing clearly. This was only the beginning. Saving her had changed everything, not just for her, but for him, and perhaps for both their worlds. Elias examined her again with the medkit. Her condition was stable for now, but he could see the faint glow of stress in her veins. The transfusion had bought time, but not much. They needed help, and fast. He had to get her to safety, but the tunnels were a maze, and the battlefield above remained deadly. As they prepared to move, the princess opened her mouth again. This time her words were clearer. He could not understand the language, but her tone was insistent. She pointed ahead, toward another passage. Elias nodded, trusting her instincts. She had survived the battlefield before, and somehow, she knew, a way out. They moved carefully, avoiding debris and collapsed walls. Outside, the sounds of war still raged, but inside the tunnels it was quieter. The princess leaned on him heavily, her trust in a human stranger undeniable. Elias felt a mixture of awe and responsibility. He was no longer just a soldier, he was a protector, a bridge between two worlds at war. Hours seemed to pass, though it might have been only minutes. They finally reached a section of the tunnel that opened into a large chamber. Ancient markings covered the walls, symbols of a culture Elias could not read. The princess paused, looking at them with something like recognition. She gestured toward a small device embedded in the wall, and then at Elias. He understood. This was a communication device. He activated it carefully, hoping it would work. The machine hummed and flickered. A holographic map projected above it, showing the surrounding terrain. Aliens, humans, and the paths between. They were all there. Elias realized they now had a chance not just to survive, but to navigate through the battlefield intelligently. The princess's glow pulsed gently as she studied the map. Elias felt the strange warmth again, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. They were bound now, not by blood alone, but by a shared purpose. Survival. Elias looked at the distant exit of the chamber. Beyond it lay uncertainty, danger, and the unknown. But he also saw hope, a chance to prove that humans could do more than fight. They could choose compassion. They could change the course of events, one life at a time. And for the first time that day, Elias felt a spark of something greater than war, a spark of humanity. The tunnels under the ruined palace were dark and damp, but they offered temporary shelter from the chaos above. Captain Elias helped the alien princess Lysera sit against the cold stone wall. Her breathing was shallow, and her body still glowed, faintly from the transfusion he had given her. Elias carefully monitored her vital signs with his medkit. The readings were fragile but promising. Her pulse was steadying, and the faint light in her veins suggested the blood had worked, at least for now. Yet Elias knew this was only temporary. She could not survive long without proper care. Lysera tried to speak again, her voice soft and melodic. Elias did not understand her words, but he could sense urgency in her tone. She pointed at herself and then at him, a clear gesture that something extraordinary had occurred. He realized she was trying to communicate about the transfusion, the gift of his blood that had saved her life. He nodded slowly, unsure how she would respond, and gently tapped his chest. "Yes," he said simply. "You are alive because of me. But you must be careful. We need to move." Lysera's eyes softened, a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. She reached out and touched his hand. The warmth of her skin was unlike anything Elias had felt. A subtle energy pulsed through him, not painful, but strange. A connection he could feel in his chest. It was as if their very life forces were acknowledging each other. Elias shook off the strange sensation and focused on the immediate danger. The battlefield above still raged. Fires burned and distant explosions echoed like the beat of war drums. They could not stay here forever. He helped Lysera to her feet, supporting her weak body as they navigated deeper into the tunnels. Hours passed as they moved cautiously through winding passages. Every now and then Elias would glance at Lysera. The transfusion had given her strength, but her movements were still fragile, her steps hesitant. Yet, something remarkable began to happen. As they traveled, Lysera's pulse seemed to synchronize with his own. When he slowed, she slowed. When he moved faster, she followed without hesitation. Elias noticed it instinctively. It was as if their hearts were linked, communicating in a silent rhythm. He had never experienced anything like it before. "Strange," he muttered under his breath. "Her blood, my blood, it's doing something more than just saving her life." Lysera glanced at him, her large eyes reflecting a curiosity that mirrored his own. For the first time, Elias saw vulnerability and intelligence intertwined in her expression. She was not just a princess, she was a being capable of complex thought, of understanding far beyond the immediate. And she was alive because of him. They reached a small chamber where the tunnels opened into a natural cave. A faint stream of water ran along the edge, and the sound of dripping water echoed through the walls. Elias helped Lysera sit near the stream, allowing her to drink carefully. She drank slowly, her body responding to the nourishment as if waking from a deep sleep. "Better?" Elias asked, though he knew she could not understand his words fully. He could tell by the slight nod of her head that she understood his intention. Something extraordinary happened then. Lysera's hand moved almost involuntarily toward his arm. A faint shimmer appeared between them, like the air itself was charged with energy. Elias felt a rush of warmth and a sense of calm, as though the transfusion had not just saved her body, but had created a bond, a link that allowed them to sense each other's presence and emotions. "This is new," Elias whispered, studying her carefully. "It's not just blood, it's something else." Lysera's eyes brightened, and for a moment, Elias thought he saw understanding in her gaze. She moved closer, her small hand resting lightly on his chest. He could feel it now, the bond pulsing like a quiet heartbeat within him. It was faint but undeniable, a human and an alien, connected through life itself. The sound of movement in the tunnels made Elias tense. He grabbed his rifle and peered into the darkness. Shadows shifted along the walls, other survivors perhaps, or remnants of alien patrols. He held a finger to his lips, signaling Lysera to stay silent. "Stay close," he whispered, We must be careful." They moved silently, avoiding debris and unstable sections of the tunnel. Every step brought them closer to safety, but Elias could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He had saved her life, yes, but that gift came with consequences. Her people would never forget, and humans would not understand. He had broken protocol. He had crossed the line between soldier and savior, but he did not regret it. After hours of cautious movement, they reached a larger chamber where the walls opened into a small underground sanctuary. Bioluminescent plants grew along the walls, casting a soft blue glow. It was peaceful here, a stark contrast to the chaos above. Elias set Lysera down gently on the soft ground. "You'll be safe here for a little while," he said. "We can..." As Lysera looked at him, then at the glowing plants, and then back at him again. Her expression was complex, a mixture of wonder, gratitude, and something he could not name. She reached out and touched his arm lightly as if to say thank you. Elias felt the pulse of the bond again, stronger now. It was more than life. It was connection, understanding, trust. Elias sat beside her, keeping watch. He thought about the battlefield, about his unit, about the humans who might be looking for him. He thought about the alien empire, about the soldiers who would come for their princess, and he thought about the strange bond that had formed between them, a human and an alien, connected in a way no one could explain. As night fell, the glow from the plants bathed the chamber in soft light. Lysera rested against him, her breathing steady but shallow. Elias closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the warmth of her presence. He realized that this bond, this link created by his blood, was something extraordinary. It was fragile, yes, but it was real. He wondered what it meant. Could it be a new form of communication? A new way to understand each other across species? Or was it simply a biological reaction to the transfusion? He did not know. All he knew was that she was alive, and that for the first time he felt a connection that transcended language, culture, and war. The night passed slowly. Elias kept a careful watch, listening for any sign of danger. Lysera slept beside him, her small hand occasionally brushing against his arm, a reminder of the bond that tied them together. He felt her presence even in moments of silence, a quiet pulse that reassured him. By morning, she was awake again. Her eyes focused on him, and this time she moved with more strength. She gestured toward him and then toward the tunnel exit, clearly indicating that it was time to continue. Elias nodded. The bond was working. They could sense each other's intentions and perhaps even coordinate their movements. As they prepared to leave the sanctuary, Elias looked at Lysera and smiled faintly. "We'll make it," he said. "Together," returned his gaze with a quiet intensity, as if she understood him completely. And in that moment, Elias knew something remarkable had happened. The transfusion had done more than save a life. It had created a connection, a bridge between human and alien warrior and princess. Outside the sanctuary, the battlefield still raged, but Elias no longer felt fear. He felt purpose. He had given her life, yes, but in doing so he had discovered something greater. The capacity for humans to choose compassion even in the darkest moments, and to forge bonds that could change the course of history. Together, they would face the dangers ahead. Together they would survive. And together they would discover what it truly meant to be bound by blood and by trust. For Elias, the battle had only just begun. The tunnels that had offered temporary refuge now seemed less like a shelter and more like a labyrinth. Captain Elias guided Princess Lysera carefully, the bond between them giving him an almost instinctive sense of her movements. He could feel her thoughts in fleeting flashes, emotions like currents flowing through his mind. Fear, curiosity, determination. The bond, born of blood, was strengthening every moment. Outside, the war had shifted. The battle on Tharion's surface had drawn away most of the alien forces, leaving only scattered patrols. Elias hoped this would give them a window to reach a safer location. Their goal was clear: find an ancient outpost rumored to hold medical facilities that could sustain Lysera until she recovered fully. As they emerged from the tunnels, The landscape unfolded like a scene from a shattered dream. Ruined buildings and scorched trees stretched as far as the eye could see. Smoke rose in thin spirals, carrying the faint metallic tang of destruction. Despite the chaos, the bond between them gave Elias a sense of purpose. He was no longer acting solely on instinct. He was guided by an almost shared intuition with Lysera. They reached a collapsed bridge that had once connected the city's central district to the outer ruins. The gap was wide, but Elias noticed a series of fallen beams and rubble that formed a makeshift path. Carefully, he helped Lysera across. Her small hands gripped his arm tightly, and he felt the pulse of their bond sink with every step. Almost. There? He murmured, though he was not sure if she understood the words. She didn't need to. Their connection conveyed meaning without speech. Finally, they reached the entrance of an abandoned facility. It was covered in alien glyphs and symbols glowing faintly in the twilight. Lysera paused, scanning the area, and Elias could feel her caution. Something about this place resonated with her, as if memories of her people were woven into the walls themselves. Inside, the air was cooler and less polluted than outside. The facility had once been a hub of science and healing, now silent and empty. Elias led Lysera to a chamber that appeared to have been a medical bay. Dust-covered equipment lined the walls, and a few alien machines still flickered weakly with residual energy. Lysera approached a terminal and touched it lightly. The screen hummed to life, displaying a mixture of alien symbols and holographic diagrams. Elias watched, fascinated. Though he could not read the language, he could sense that it contained records of her civilization, perhaps even knowledge of their biology. Then, unexpectedly, Lysera moved closer to him. Her hand pressed against his chest again, and he felt the bond surge stronger. It was more than connection now, it was communication. Small images, feelings, and impressions flowed from her mind into his. He saw flashes of her childhood, of her training as a princess, and of the responsibilities she had carried even before the war. He felt her fear, her pain, and her hope for a future where her people could survive. "This is incredible," Elias whispered. He realized that their bond was not just emotional, it was cognitive. Through it, he could understand her thoughts, intentions, and even her memories, albeit in fragments. Lysera's eyes locked on his, and he sensed a question forming. "Why did you save me?" Elias swallowed hard. He had acted on instinct, on compassion, but now, seeing her life so fragile, seeing the weight of her position, he felt the enormity of what he had done. He placed a hand gently on hers. "I saved you because I could," he conveyed through the bond. "Because you are alive, and because it was the right thing to do." She blinked, and he felt her understanding mixed with surprise and something new, respect. For the first time, she looked at a human not as a soldier or enemy, but as a being capable of choice, of moral courage. As they explored the medical bay, Elias activated some of the functioning machines. Scanners and monitors came to life, providing him with more detailed readings of Lysera's condition. Her vital signs were stable, but her energy levels remained low. The blood transfusion had saved her life, but it was only the first step. Full recovery required specialized care, something Elias knew he could provide only partially. While checking the equipment, Elias noticed something remarkable. The transfusion had triggered an unusual reaction. Lysera's body began to emit a faint aura of energy, visible only as a subtle shimmer around her skin. It was harmless but fascinating. The alien technology in the facility registered this as a new energy signature, one that seemed to interact with human biology in a unique way. "Strange," Elias murmured. "Your body, it's reacting to mine in ways science might not understand." Lysera watched him, curiosity evident in her violet eyes. He felt her thoughts brush against his mind. "It is not just your blood. It is your spirit, your courage. It is part of you that flows into me." Elias blinked. Spirit? He thought. He had always known humans were resilient, adaptive, but this... This was beyond biology. The bond was not merely chemical. It was something deeper, a merging of trust, compassion, and life energy. They spent hours in the medical bay, Lysera recovering slowly, her strength returning. Elias guided her through basic movements, careful not to push her too far. Yet as they worked, they discovered more than just physical healing. The bond between them allowed small, shared insights. He could sense when she was in pain before she moved, anticipate her needs, and even feel fleeting flashes of her thoughts about strategy and survival. It was then that the facility's central terminal activated spontaneously, a holographic map projected into the air, revealing the surrounding region. Icons marked locations, some familiar, some unfamiliar. Elias noticed clusters of alien troops scattered nearby. He realized that despite the chaos, Lysera's people were searching for her. And perhaps worse, human patrols might be closing in, unaware that she had been saved. Lysera reached for the hologram. Her hand passed through it, and the icons shifted in response. Elias watched in awe. Through the bond, he sensed her thoughts. She wanted to reach a safe zone hidden deep in the planet's interior, a sanctuary for her royal line, protected from the ongoing war. He nodded. "We can get there," he conveyed. "Together." Suddenly a loud vibration echoed through the chamber. Sensors on the terminal flickered, detecting movement outside. Elias grabbed his rifle and motioned for Lysera to stay low. Alien patrols were nearby, and they had to move carefully. Using the terminal, Elias charted a path through the ruins that avoided main roads and open areas. The bond with Lysera made coordination effortless. He could sense when she was ready to move, when she needed rest, and even when she perceived danger before he could see it. They were operating as a single unit, a human and an alien, connected in ways neither fully understood. As they navigated the ruins, Elias reflected on the consequences of his choice. Saving Lysera had changed everything. Not just for her, but for himself and perhaps for the war itself. The bond they shared was more than life-saving, it was transformative. It allowed understanding, cooperation, and perhaps the possibility of bridging two worlds at war. Finally, after hours of careful travel, they reached the entrance to a natural cave system leading toward the sanctuary. The path was treacherous, littered with jagged rocks and debris. Elias helped Lysera across each obstacle, the bond guiding him. He felt her trust in him, as clear as if she had spoken the words aloud. Inside the cave, the air was cool and damp, but safe. They paused to rest. Lysera leaned against him, her small frame trembling slightly from exhaustion. Elias felt the bond, pulse gently, a quiet affirmation of their shared determination. This is only the beginning, he thought. We have survived the battlefield, but the true challenge lies ahead. He realized then that the bond was not just a tool for survival. It was a key, a bridge between human and alien, warrior and princess. Through it, they could communicate, anticipate each other, and perhaps influence the course of history itself. Lysera's eyes met his, and he sensed a silent question forming. Can we change the future? Elias placed a hand on hers. Yes, he conveyed, through the bond. Because we are connected, because we choose to survive, and because we are stronger together. For the first time in the war-torn world of Therion, hope stirred, not in the armies, not in the politics, but in the bond of two individuals who dared to trust each other beyond the boundaries of blood and species. And as they rested in the cave, the bond between human and alien grew stronger, preparing them for the trials that awaited. Beyond the Yar, ruins beyond the battlefield, the true story of survival, courage, and unity was just beginning. The cave stretched deep into the heart of Tharion's mountains, a network of winding tunnels and hidden chambers that had long protected travelers from storms and marauders. Captain Elias guided Princess Lysera through the narrow passages, the Law, bond between them pulsing faintly with each step. The transfusion, now hours old, had begun to produce subtle but remarkable effects. Elias could sense more than her movements. He could feel her intentions, anticipate her actions, and even sense her emotions before she acted on them. Lysera, for her part, seemed stronger. Her small frame moved with more confidence, her violet eyes bright with determination. The faint glow along her veins had intensified slightly, a shimmering aura that Elias had first noticed in the ruined medical bay. The alien technology in the cave reacted to her presence, faint hums echoing as if acknowledging the bond. They reached a cavern large enough to allow both of them to rest, its ceiling high and dotted with crystalline formations that reflected faint light like stars. Elias set Lysera down gently, scanning the area for threats. He had learned to trust the bond. They had survived the battlefield together, but he could not ignore the dangers of a war-torn world. "You'll need to rest here for a short time," he whispered. She nodded, understanding even without words. The bond allowed her to feel his care, and she relaxed slightly, her breathing steadying. Elias watched her, aware that every choice he made could impact not only her survival, but the future of her people, and perhaps humanity's reputation across the stars. The tranquility of the cavern was suddenly broken by a tremor that ran through the ground. Elias froze, rifle raised, the bond pulsed sharply, alerting him before he even saw the approaching figures. A small squad of alien scouts armed and scanning for survivors. Lysera stiffened beside him, her aura flaring faintly, a reflection of her alertness and the bond's amplification. They are testing us, Elias thought. He could feel her emotions, fear, determination, focus, melding with his own. The bond had become a conduit for teamwork, instinctive coordination that neither fully understood. The scouts advanced, their steps echoing against the cavern walls. Elias whispered a plan through the bond, guiding Lysera's movements. She mirrored his actions instinctively, ducking and rolling behind crystalline pillars as he fired precise shots that disabled, but did not kill, the approaching enemies. Each movement was coordinated, seamless, a dance of strategy and instinct powered by their connection. One scout managed to corner Lysera briefly, pressing a weapon toward her chest. Elias felt her panic spike, sharp and immediate. The bond reacted. Without conscious thought, he grabbed a loose rock and hurled it with precision, striking the scout and causing him to stumble. Lysera instinctively twisted away, and together they regained a position of advantage. Elias felt a surge of pride and awe. The bond was not only emotional, it was practical. It allowed them to anticipate and respond faster than any human or alien warrior alone. They had become more than allies. They were a single unit. After the scouts retreated, Elias helped Lysera move deeper into the cavern system. She leaned on him for support, but the strength in her posture was growing. He could sense her confidence returning, bolstered by the bond and the life he had given her. As they traveled, they encountered a section of the cavern that housed ancient machinery, remnants of the alien empire's research facilities. Panels flickered to life as Lysera approached, displaying energy readings and holographic diagrams. Elias watched in fascination. The bond allowed him to sense the purpose of the devices. She understood them instinctively, as if memories of her ancestors were encoded in her DNA, and he could feel fragments of that understanding too. "This place. It is a test," Elias whispered. He could feel her thoughts. They are watching. They are measuring. The bond allowed them to perceive threats that were not immediately visible. And the cave itself seemed to respond to Lysera's presence, energy patterns aligning subtly with their combined life force. Hours passed as they navigated deeper into the hidden facility. The bond began to manifest new effects. Lysera's aura glowed brighter in the dark, casting gentle light that revealed hidden paths. Elias could feel her strength syncing with his own, amplifying their physical abilities and reflexes. Small injuries healed faster, fatigue lessened, and their coordination reached a level neither thought possible. Yet the test was far from over. Deep within the facility, they encountered a series of challenges designed to measure the worthiness of any being who might seek the Empire's knowledge. Holographic projections simulated battle scenarios, testing speed, strategy, and moral choices. Elias and Lysra faced each scenario together, the bond allowing them to anticipate each other's moves. In one simulation, Elias was faced with a choice: protect Lysra and risk destruction of a vital outpost, or save the outpost and leave her vulnerable. The bond pulsed sharply as he reached for her hand. Without words, Lysra conveyed a thought. Together, we can find another way. Elias acted, coordinating their movements instinctively. They neutralized the threat, saving both her life and the outpost. The simulation ended, recognizing their decision as exceptional. In another scenario, Lysra was tested alone. The projection created multiple attackers, simulating overwhelming odds. Elias could feel her fear, her focus, and her determination, all amplified by the bond. Together, they overcame the simulation, not through brute force, but through clever coordination and mutual understanding. The holographic monitors registered their success, recording them as a pair unlike any seen before in the Empire's history. Hours of tests revealed an astonishing truth. The bond between human and alien was not merely a byproduct of the transfusion, it was a new form of synergy. The princess's body, enhanced by human blood, could interface with alien technology in ways previously impossible. Elias felt flashes of insight, strategies forming in his mind that were informed by both his combat experience and Lysra's royal intuition. "This is more than survival," he whispered. "We're becoming something new." Lysra's hand pressed against his chest, and the bond pulsed brightly, affirming his thought. As the simulated challenges concluded, a final holographic figure appeared. An alien elder, a hologram of immense presence. The figure observed them silently, then spoke in a language Elias could not understand. Yet through the bond, he felt the meaning clearly. "You have passed. Your unity is unique. You are worthy." Elias and Lysra exchanged a glance. The tests had not only measured their physical and strategic abilities, they had recognized their bond, their cooperation, and their moral choices. The holographic figure faded, leaving them in the quiet glow of the cavern. Lysra turned to Elias, and this time the bond allowed something even more profound: communication without words. She conveyed a thought that was not just a feeling but a message. "We are stronger together. We can change the future." Elias felt it resonate within him. He understood her completely, in a way that transcended language. They left the facility, the cave network now behind them. The bond had matured, giving them abilities neither had anticipated: reflexes, coordination, perception, all enhanced. Yet Elias knew the true test was still ahead. The rogue factions of both human and alien forces were still at large, and the war continued above ground. Their combined strength might be the key to survival and to the possibility of peace. As they emerged into the open, the sun was rising over the shattered landscape of Tharion. Fires still smoldered, but light illuminated the path ahead. Elias felt the bond pulse with renewed strength guiding their steps. Together they were not just human and alien. They were a single force, ready to face the trials that awaited them in the world above. And for the first time, Elias understood something vital. It was not just courage or skill that made humans special. It was the choice to act with compassion, to forge trust across boundaries, and to transform life itself through courage and selflessness. The tests had proven it. The bond had proven it. Lysra glanced at him, a faint smile forming on her lips. Elias returned it. Beyond the battlefield, beyond the war, their journey was only beginning. But one truth was clear. Humanity's spirit, the willingness to risk everything to save another, had created something extraordinary, something that even the most advanced alien technology could not replicate. The bond of blood and trust had become more than survival. It had become legacy. And together, Elias and Lysra would face whatever the future held as one. The morning sun rose over Therion, casting a golden glow across the battlefield. Fires still smoked in the distance, and the remnants of war stretched as far as the eye could see. Captain Elias and Princess Lysera emerged from the hidden caves, their bond stronger than ever. They were no longer just a warrior and a princess, they were a unit, a living symbol of trust and cooperation between species. The rogue faction that had threatened both humans and aliens had grown bold. Intelligence. Reports indicated they were gathering near the planet's northern plains, intending to strike both sides with devastating force. Elias and Lysera knew they had little time. The bond between them gave them a tactical advantage, allowing them to anticipate enemy movements and coordinate strategies in ways neither army could achieve alone. As they approached the plains, they saw the rogue forces preparing for attack. Aliens with jagged armor and humans who had turned against their own kind moved in organized chaos. Elias studied the formations, feeling Lysera's thoughts through their bond. They were aligned, two minds working as one. "We can stop them," Elias conveyed through the bond. "Together?" Lysera nodded, her small hand brushing against his arm. He felt her resolve, mirrored in his own heartbeat. Their connection had grown beyond simple understanding. It was intuition, instinct, and strategy, fused into a single force. They moved forward, stepping into the open battlefield. The rogue forces noticed them and hesitated. Here were two individuals, one human, one alien, standing confidently, radiating an aura that none could ignore. Elias and Lysera exchanged a glance. The bond pulsed and they felt an unspoken message. Now. The rogue forces struck first. Elias reacted instantly, dodging a projectile and returning fire with precision. Lysera moved in perfect sync, her small frame agile and swift. Together they coordinated attacks, covering each other's blind spots. Where Elias's strength and experience led, Lysera's speed and insight followed. They were unstoppable. A wave of enemies charged at them, and Elias realized that brute force alone would not be enough. He felt the bond surge, a sharp pulse that conveyed Lysera's thoughts. Use the terrain. Lead them to the cliffs. Elias understood immediately. He maneuvered them through the uneven landscape, forcing the rogue forces toward steep cliffs and jagged rocks. The enemies struggled to maintain formation, and the bond allowed Elias and Lysera to anticipate each step, striking at the perfect moments. The rogue soldiers faltered, their confidence shaken. Amid the chaos, Elias noticed a group of rogue humans attempting to flank them. He signaled Lysera through the bond. She reacted instinctively, leaping forward and disarming them with precision, while Elias neutralized the remaining threats. The bond allowed them to move faster, strike more accurately, and coordinate perfectly without words. Soon, the tide of battle began to shift. The rogue faction was faltering. Their coordination broke under the combined force of Elias and Lysera, their unity and bond unmatched. The rogue soldiers began to retreat, confusion and fear spreading among their ranks. Amid the retreat, a final challenge emerged. The rogue commander, an alien larger and stronger than any Elias had faced, stepped forward, weapon in hand. He moved with precision, clearly experienced, and Elias felt Lysera tense beside him. The bond pulsed sharply. Together they thought simultaneously. The commander attacked, and Elias dodged, countering with skill honed over years of battle. Lysera moved in unison, anticipating every strike. They fought as one, each action guided by shared instinct and strategy. The commander lunged at Elias, but Lysera intercepted, her aura flaring faintly, allowing Elias to strike and disable him. The bond had amplified their abilities, turning two individuals into a single force capable of facing even the strongest enemies. When the battle ended, silence fell over the northern plains. The rogue faction had been defeated, not by the strength of one race or the other, but by the cooperation of a human and an alien. Elias and Lysera stood together, surveying the battlefield. Their bond still pulsed softly, a reminder of the connection that had made this victory possible. Soon, Both human and alien forces arrived, drawn by the noise of battle. They witnessed the scene, a human warrior and an alien princess standing, victorious, their bond evident even to those who could not understand it. Murmurs spread among the soldiers. Humans who had once seen aliens as enemies now saw the potential for unity. Aliens who had doubted humans began to respect them as more than warriors. Lysera stepped forward, her eyes scanning the assembled forces. Through the bond, Elias felt her thoughts clearly. We have shown them the way. Now they must choose. Elias nodded. They will see. Because we acted together, they can see that cooperation is stronger than conflict. Leaders from both sides approached, cautiously. Lysera spoke in her own language, her voice clear and firm. Elias could feel her confidence through the bond. She conveyed the events of the day, the threat of the rogue faction and the success they had achieved together. The leaders exchanged glances. They did not fully understand the bond that connected Elias and Lysera, but they could not deny the EU results. Two individuals from different worlds had overcome impossible odds and united to save countless lives. A council was called. Humans and aliens came together, listening to Lysera and Elias recount the events, their partnership, and the importance of trust and cooperation. The bond between them became a symbol, a living proof that humanity's courage, compassion, and moral choice could create something extraordinary, even in the midst of war. Days passed as the two worked to stabilize the region. Medical aid was delivered to both human and alien casualties. Refugees were guided to safety. The bond allowed Elias and Lysera to coordinate relief efforts with uncanny efficiency. They could anticipate needs, sense danger, and respond instantly. Together they were not just leaders, they were a bridge between two civilizations. During quiet moments, Elias reflected on the journey that had brought them here. He remembered the battlefield where he had found Lysera, the transfusion that had saved her life and the bond that had grown from it. The choice to act with compassion had changed everything. It had not only saved a life, but it had created the potential for peace. Lysera approached him one evening, the twin moons of Therion casting soft light across the plains. She touched his arm lightly, and he felt the familiar pulse of their bond. You have given more than blood, she conveyed through the connection. You have given hope. Elias smiled faintly. And you have shown what can be built from trust. We are stronger together. Their thoughts lingered on the future. The rogue factions had been defeated, but the war was not entirely over. Yet Elias knew that humanity's legacy, courage, compassion, and the ability to make moral choices even in the face of danger, would be remembered by Lysera's people and by the humans who witnessed their victory. Weeks later, as peace slowly began to take hold in the northern plains, Lysera prepared to return to her people's capital. The bond between them remained strong, a silent connection that would endure across distances and time. She looked at Elias with gratitude and respect. I will never forget this, she conveyed. You are part of my world now, and your spirit will guide us. Elias placed a hand on hers. And you are part of mine. Humanity has shown that courage and compassion can bridge worlds. Remember that. They parted at the edge of the city, the bond still pulsing faintly but firmly. Elias returned to his unit, no longer just a warrior but a living symbol of what humanity could achieve. His choice, to save a life, to act with compassion, had created something greater than victory in battle. It had created hope, unity, and a legacy that would be remembered for generations. Lysera, returning to her people, carried the story of the human who had risked everything to save her. Her people began to see humans not merely as adversaries, but as beings capable of profound courage and moral strength. They recognized that it was not technology or power alone that determined the future. It was the willingness to act rightly, even when the outcome was uncertain. And so, the story of Captain Elias and Princess Lysera spread across worlds. Humans and aliens would remember the bond formed by one warrior's choice, a bond that transcended species, war, and fear. It was a reminder that true strength lies not only in arms or intelligence, but in the courage to act with compassion, the wisdom to trust, and the heart to unite what was once divided. In the years that followed, the bond between human and alien inspired new alliances, new understanding, and new hope. Elias never forgot the pulse of life he had shared with Lysera, nor the lessons it had taught him, that humanity's spirit could reach across the stars, that courage and kindness could shape the destiny of worlds, and that even a single choice could change everything. And so the legacy of blood and trust endured, a shining testament to what humans could achieve when they dared to act with compassion, bravery, and unshakable hope. The universe had seen the strength of a human heart, and it had never been the same again.